Hi, everybody. No. No, it's more fun time does nothing. Hi, everyone who was not in the rewatch stream that we just did. Sorry, I've got a nut in my throat. We are watching today the what? What are the words? How they things? What? I thought I fixed the buttons. Believe it or not, I spent an hour trying to fix the buttons.
Is everyone here very stoned?
There we go. Today we are talking Darla, and yeah. Sorry, my brain libroketh today. Not always one master with the words and stuff, so forgive me. We're going to be watching the Darla episode guide. It's about 20 minutes, and somewhere in there I'm going to go over and post the link in order to join the hangout and chat with me, such as it will be in this state. And that's probably enough preamble. What do you think? All right, let's go ahead and watch the Darla episode guide. It did work before the stream. Here we go. Thank you, Lawson. I appreciate it. We just watched the episode. I mean, it's self-evidently one of the best in the series. So those are, to me, challenging to write about and to come up with something cohesive or a perspective or whatever. Let's see if I did. I don't remember. Play. My constant refrain for this season's Angel episode guides is apparently going to be how much wonderful detail there is that I never noticed until writing about it. It's possible the bright, saturated, energetic identity that Buffy had eventually settled on at this point just ended up being more my personal jam when it came to an average popcorn run-through of both shows. But this critical examination we've been doing together of Angel's second season has revealed to me something that I have been growing more in love with each passing episode. And Darla, a Tim Minear written and directed episode 7, is no different. Season 2 of Angel is wonderfully complex and tightly scripted, building to something in a way that I never realized before this episode was in the works from one of the first shots of the season. Oh, this is when I settled on the mirror.
The greater scheme, the big picture. Nothing really matters. I just can't see favor.
There's a lot worse things out there than
This scene doesn't work in spite of you. Nothing should do. It works with us.
Why is it that I'm not on the floor this time?
Take all that matters is what we do.
Angel is having a quiet night at home in the hotel. Nothing to worry about here as he gets... Oh. Well, never mind. Wesley stops by to say hello, and Angel proclaims his fineness, all evidence to the contrary. While Angel can't steal himself away from Darla's visage, she is pained at the sight of her own, and at the Lindsay McDonald bachelor pad, Darla is starting to come to grips with the state of her circumstances with Angel.
Now we're soulmates.
The emotional decay that Angel described would happen to her in the episode Dear Boy has begun to occur. Lindsay tells Holland that Darla is breaking down, which appears to all be part of Holland's plan, and we get a flashback to 1609 Virginia, and the date was so specific I actually looked it up on Wikipedia, wondering if Tim had intended something that I missed. In July 23rd, 1609, a hurricane at sea separated 9 ships of the London Company, 600 or more settlers, en route to relieve people living at the Jamestown settlement in Virginia. One ship sank, and another was driven ashore. In August 1609, the 7 remaining ships from London arrived at the colony of Jamestown with 200 to 300 men, women, children, and one Mouthicus frutatus, otherwise known as the Master. The Master's visit to Darla is his first appearance on Angel, and this is the second appearance of syphilis in the Buffyverse, if a bit less of the funny variety.
Syphilis?
I love the detail that Darla is enduring some bloodletting. The Master turns her. Team Angel is trying to figure out how to track down Darla, and Gunn, showing that he's obviously more than just the muscle, suggests a look at the books.
You telling me these lawyers haven't figured out a way to write that off?
In flashbacks, 7 years after his turning, we see Angelus meet the Master for the first time.
And you live in the sewers, do you?
We lurk below, giving tribute to the Old Ones.
The Old Ones are a thread stitched throughout Buffyverse lore that I think are worth highlighting here.
For untold eons, demons walked the earth. They made it their home, their hell. But in time, they lost their purchase on this reality. And the way was made for mortal animals, for man. All that remains of the Old Ones are vestiges, certain magics, certain creatures.
In Buffy Season 3, the Mayor's ascension was his attempt to turn himself into one of the Old Ones, Ulvican, and Anya furthered the lore on the Old Ones, clarifying the difference between contemporary hybrid demons and the Old Ones themselves.
You've never seen a demon. All the demons that walk the earth are tainted, are human hybrids like vampires. The ascension means that a human becomes pure demon. They're bigger.
The true demons. It's possible that the Hellmouth spawned from Prophecy Girl and the Zeppo is also an Old One, though it's never made explicitly clear. I'll be highlighting the evolving Old One's lore as we go, along with how they relate to the powers. Wesley pleads with Angel to use a level head, emphasizing that if this is a distraction,
It's working.
a series of flashbacks shows us the path the whirlwind reaped over the coming years. Darla is having herself an Angel on the Hill in a men's moment and asks Lindsay a strange question.
Why haven't you kissed me?
I didn't know if you wanted me to.
Why should that matter?
She really does struggle with that whole consent thing, doesn't she? Interesting that Lindsay does not in this context. Darla calls Angel, Lindsay and a security guard catch her, and the security guard takes a bullet in the struggle. Holland tells Lindsay he's terminating the project, meaning Darla. We see a flashback to the Boxer Rebellion, an officially supported peasant uprising of 1900 that attempted to drive all foreigners from China. Boxers was a name that foreigners gave to a Chinese secret society known as the Righteous and Harmonious Fists. The group practiced certain boxing and calisthenic rituals in the belief that this made them invulnerable. An ensouled Angel tries to return to his old life, or at least have Darla put him out of his current one. She refuses, but gives him a trial run back with the group. He stumbles on some missionaries in an alleyway, distracts Darla from them, and when Drew points out, "I smell fear," looking into the alleyway, he deflects.
I saw a place where it's it.
No, I love. I was muted. Thank you, Herondale. I just thought that was the Harmonious Fists connection was an interesting potential connection to the Slayer at that time period. And yes, Mark Metcalf. We lurk below, paying tribute to the Old Ones. One of my favorites too, Josh. But obviously, the reason I delved into all of that was to set up Illyria. There's actually a shot of Illyria edited in there. Illyria from the book in Angel Season 5. In the present, Lindsay warns Angel about Darla. It's always fun doing flash forwards like that and editing in as many little details, trying to connect the dots.
Incoming elimination. Lindsay sees the cop that was involved in the office alive and well and realizes that Holland always had Darla going back to Angel and Lindsay's role in it planned in advance. Angel saves her and brings her back to home base, and the episode ends with a cross cut between Darla begging Angel for the favor she gave him all those years ago, and Darla in the past having killed the missionaries, demanding Angel eat their baby in front of her or he's out of the gang.
No more words. Act.
They both do. I read that the original fan reaction to Darla included some people thinking it all felt a little retconny to Angel's backstory that the audience was already familiar with. Non-linear storytelling has become much more mainstream since then, and if it aired today, I'd be surprised if anyone had the same reaction to the episode. For me, the backstories of the Immortals can be
Oh, I forgot. I am hitting publish now. Sorry, hold on. You can now join the Patron Hangout. If you are in the $5 and up group, link to join the meeting with me when we're done here is live.
Weeded out bit by relevant bit, and newly resold Angel's attempt to continue the life he was most familiar with makes sense to me. Though I do have one very minor pick to nit, for which I'll offer a headcanon as well. In the Buffy episode Angel, when his vampirism was newly revealed to her, Angel told her of the day he was cursed, ending the story with,
I haven't fed on a living human being since that day.
but in this episode we find out that's not exactly true, is it?
I've killed men, you've seen it.
Rapists and murderers, thieves and scoundrels.
The Buffyverse adopts
And a baby.
a mostly cut and dry perspective of the moral rules on Buffy and Angel's fight against evildoers, and that puts the sold in the off-limits category.
Find out everything you can about the murder of the deputy mayor.
But that's not really our jurisdiction.
Buffy's right. The deputy mayor's murder was the result of human malice. Nothing supernatural about it.
And even so, I would think most thieves are just poor peasants trying to eat. So clearly Angel hasn't quite sussed out his code yet? Either way, this episode is evidence that Sold Angel actually has killed people. As for not telling Buffy, I can reasonably headcanon it as brevity, Angel not wanting to explain the initial equivocating he went through in the early days of his resoulment. Anyway, Darla is a smashing good episode of Angel, and what an astonishing 2 hours of television we got between the Buffy episode Fool for Love and this crossover episode of Angel the night of Tuesday,
Release
November
the baby
14th,
cut.
2000. Angel isn't subject to the episode 7 effect quite as dramatically as Buffy is. We didn't get one in season 1 because the show at that point was working within its originally intended episodic structure. Season 5's episode feels like it might have been intended to be episode 70, but it's possible that the design of the season got redirected due to the show's impending cancellation. But it does seem like the episode 7s for 2 through 4, with Darla, Offspring, and Apocalypse Nowish, were intended to be pivotal escalations of the season arcs, and Darla is easily my favorite of the bunch. After scripting the incredible Are You Now or Have You Ever Been, Darla is Tim Minear's first time both writing and directing a Buffyverse episode. His only directorial credit previous to this one was an episode of a show called High Tide about,
Vampire cowboy? Vampire fireman? Vampire ballerina.
No, Surfer Detectives. Darla and Fool for Love both reveal and contrast each other in fascinating ways. I mentioned in my video for Fool for Love that the flashbacks in each, the Whirlwind's album cover sequences that Tim Minear shot for both episodes, offer complementing perspectives on what the characters were going through. Robert Krall and Buffy's composer at the time, Thomas Wanker, even deliberately chose not to collaborate so that the crossover scenes would maintain separate perspectives. Both episodes climax.
That's one of those miracle edits where I just put a cross dissolve down and thought I'd be timing that one for 20 minutes. And it worked.
Both episodes climax with a sequence in the present that is in some form paralleling or being informed by a flashback to the past. Both episodes feature a surprising character turn. In Fool for Love, we expect Spike to at least attempt an armed conflict with Buffy, or at the very least moan and complain, but instead, he surprises us.
What's wrong?
In contrast, by the end of this episode, Darla, who actually has a soul, has developed some empathy for what Angel went through all those years ago. She comes to him at the Hyperion, and we expect some form of reconciliation, even if her request was foreshadowed by Angel's.
I'm jealous.
Not anymore.
I can be again.
While Fool for Love may have a bit more visual flair going on, especially in the alleyway sequence, Darla feels to me a little more tightly scripted and complex. There's a particular elegance to the structure of it that I really enjoy, occurring in 3 stanzas that follow Darla's history, and each with one of the 3 men in her life, the Master, Angel, and Lindsay, with Angel and the Master both reflecting each other. Darla is sick in both time periods, afflicted with death and afflicted with life.
I can feel this body dying, Lindsay.
The Master comes to her in the guise of a righteous man, but actually a demon underneath, and says,
Perhaps I can still save her soul.
Holland insinuates that history might repeat itself again, with Angel, a righteous man with a demon underneath, when he says that Angel will do
what he must do. Save her soul.
The Master's actions chucked Darla's soul to the ether. Angel refuses her request, saving it instead. That structure continues the use of the season's mirror motif for developing the primary themes, something I touched on in the video for Guys Will Be Guys. A mirror both reflects and reverses what we see, making it a catalyst for the examination of reality, as well as a distortion of it. One of the first shots of the season was Team Angel at the gym standing in front of a mirror, where he couldn't see himself, but he could see the rest of the team. He then promptly shatters that reflection. The Tish LaFleur then made that symbol a little more literal in Guys Will Be Guys.
I don't have a reflection, so
Sure you do.
I do.
You're reflected in the people around you.
That episode played with the motif again, through Wesley mirroring what he saw in Angel and discovering that capability had always been a part of him. Darla's seduction of Angel has been working as a reflection of Angel's relationship with Buffy, only with inverted intent. Where Buffy was always trying to bring Angel into the light, Darla's intent has been to drive him from it. And this episode's cold open includes a shot of Lindsay standing in front of a mirror that Darla can't stand to look into, symbolizing her reluctance
Lindsay's reflection is split in that mirror too, which I like as an indication of his own kind of turmoil and choices.
The light.
The blind date choices.
Darla's intent has been to drive him from it. And this episode's cold open includes a shot of Lindsay standing in front of a mirror that Darla can't stand to look into, symbolizing her reluctance to consider her life through the perspective her reacquired soul has given her. Lindsay's split image here is a clever visual reminder of the duality many of our characters are dealing with, especially him.
I need your help.
In fact, the more I watch Angel, the more I think Lindsay might be one of the most interesting characters on
Lindsay.
either show. Lindsay, who feels the weight of his own conscience's soul, and so regularly seeks to surround himself with people that empower him to ignore it and do what he wants. In the first season, that was Holland over Angel, but there's a nice beat in this scene where Darla empowers his bad side as well.
Why haven't you kissed me?
I didn't know if you wanted me to.
Why should that matter?
Lindsay's decency that he can't rid himself of is actually the fuel for Holland's plot in this episode. His earnestness sells Darla's jeopardy to Angel. Far from being a problem, Lindsay's inner conflict over life at Wolfram and Hart is actually a tool Holland keeps in the box for situations like this one. But obviously the major reflection in the episode is in the relationship between Darla and Angel, emphasized by the episode's flashbacks. This is the fullest picture of that relationship yet, but I think it's notable the ways in which Angel and Darla interact. It's not with romance and love like, say, Spike or Drew, or Buffy and Angel, but through the empowerment of each other's selfish desires. Darla feeds Angel victims, and he performs for her validation.
Am I learning?
Angel seduces Darla away from the Master with the promise of a pretty face and a beautiful view. In an interview for Fandom.com, Tim Minear said that at no time was I trying to play this as being Angel's true love. It's more like the play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, this troubled old married couple with secrets. I wasn't trying to take Buffy's place in his heart. The play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf examines the complexities of a marriage between a middle-aged couple, Martha and George, who late one evening have an unwitting younger couple as guests and draw them into their bitter and frustrated relationship. In the play, the couple engage in dangerous emotional games, including open discussion of a son they have, but both accuse each other of ruining. In the final act, George proclaims that their boy has died, and it is revealed that their son is actually a mutually agreed upon fiction, because both Martha and George are sterile. I've said that what Darla has done to Angel throughout.
Man, the trial I finished the script for today mentions Holtz, and of course the trials that Angel goes through in that to save Darla's life, earn a life. All of the Connor connections this far back are really interesting.
Absolutely constitutes abuse, and one of the characteristics of an abuser is their constant manipulation of the narrative. Think Bethany's dad in Untouched.
We're gonna be a family again.
As though labeling what happened to her when she was young as family would turn it into something she could embrace. Darla has been using the tactic against Angel since the season started, repainting his interactions with his team as their toxicity.
And did any of your friends say thank you?
Not exactly.
in order to empower his selfish desires. The result of the abuser's manipulation is a shaped scenario in which every apparent outcome satisfies their needs.
It's not his fault. I mean, he's not himself when he gets like this.
In the scene under the water tower, if Angel succumbed to Darla's seduction, she would win. And if he retaliated against her for it, she would win. In the last scene of this episode, Darla's desperation makes the tactic far more transparent, painting Angel turning her either as justice he deserves to have, or as a favor he needs to repay. It's a powerful scene, because Angel, a survivor, reclaims his narrative.
You think you did me a favor? You damned me.
His wording here got me to thinking about another line in the episode I'd never considered in detail before.
I don't remember anything. It's a great big nothing. Could it be there's no hell?
There's a hell. A few of them. I've been to one.
Darla has no memory of the afterlife. Why doesn't she remember a hell? And what is hell to a vampire?
You're hurting me.
Obviously, I'm thinking connections to Buffy Season 6.
That's good, too.
Especially to one like Darla. In any traditional sense, portrayals of hell involve physical torture and imprisonment across an eternity. But that seems somewhat redundant for a vampire, doesn't it? Angel went to hell with a soul. Without one, a vampire lacks a conscience, and thus the freedom necessary to be able to make decisions contrary to their own desires. Freedom can't exist inside of pure id, or a mock addiction, which means that vampires are already immortal prisoners of their own impulse. Perhaps Darla was never sent to hell then, because to be a vampire is a meaningless hell itself already. This is the bad place. And I was reminded of the Twilight Zone episode, A Nice Place to Visit, written by Charles Beaumont. Rocky is shot during a robbery and wakes up in the afterlife with a friendly old man who explains to him that he is there to provide him anything he desires. Rocky asks for money, women, and luxuries, all of which he is given. He wins every game at a casino. The women defer to his every whim. After a while, he begins to feel a little bored and empty, and asks the old man for a challenge he could lose. When the old man says they can set that up, Rocky says he's tired of heaven and probably deserves to be in the other place, to which the old man replies,
Heaven? Whatever gave you the idea you were in heaven, Mr. Valentine? This is the other place.
A single donut is a luxurious thing. A diet of only donuts is a meaningless hell. And in the case of a vampire, multiplied by eternity. I love the idea of Darla being able to notice the pain of mortality that most of us can't, because we've never experienced the contrast of life without it. Death doesn't make life inherently meaningful, but if the currency of life is time, our limited supply of it is one of the things that imbues that currency with any value, making how we spend it a significant decision. To read one book or another, to love someone or to not, to fight, to believe in oneself.
To feel that heartbeat. To know, really, and for once, that you're alive. It's a gift.
Wait a minute. You know what? Holy smokes. This is the bad place. This is the bad place. This is the bad place. This is the bad place.
The pig's getting angry.
This is the bad place.
Beef, 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 beef.
Oh, this is the bad place.
Well, I like the end of that one. Shroud of Ramon. Oh, yeah.
It's nice. It's fine. It's good.
Let's just go on to the trial. There, now we've watched the Shroud of Ramon guide. Okay, sorry, hold on one second. 4K. Okay, so before I join the Hangout, this is the bad place. Just have to read the spiel. So I'm about to join the discussion with patrons of mine in the $5 and up group. These conversations, generally we go about 2 hours. I limit the number of seats to 10 people-ish, and that kind of keeps us right around 2 hours. The people who join the Hangouts are not YouTubers in this context. Disagreement with their opinions is welcome. Rudeness directed at any of the attendees will get you banned. Yeah, it's just like, yeah. There is no aim to keep the conversation kid-friendly. That wouldn't be possible given some of the subject matter that the shows touch on. But we want the streams to be a fun, casual place for fans to gather and share in the love of the shows. The simplest way to try and strike a balance is requesting that people keep discussion respectful and relevant to the specific episode we're talking about. We're aware that, as it does with the live in-person discussion, the conversation can travel. And the stream moderators do their best to read the room and try and steer conversations back if things get a little uncomfortable or too far off the topics of the episode. Since that is a completely nebulous and subjective thing to define, the rule is please follow the requests of the moderating team, or we'll ban you. Easy enough. If they say shut it down, shut it down. That's all we're saying. Okay. That spiel is getting longer and longer. Joining. This is the bad place. Hello? Jack, can you give me a sound check?
Loud and clear, Captain.
Yay! Oh, and now I need to... And hello? There we have... There's all the peeps. And I'm going to put you guys over there. And... Hi! Hi, everyone. Now allow me to change gears in my head. That usually takes about 10 minutes. Yeah, everyone's a repeat. You all know. I set a timer, 10 minutes-ish. For people who have never been here before, I tend to go long because I like to try and get to know you and be like, so how'd you get to join the show? Yada, yada, yada. Exactly. That's what I look like, Josh. I appreciate the reenactment. And I forgot. There was something else I was going to mention. Josh, you son of a biscuit. It doesn't matter. All right, Jack, you went last. Well, last time. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I don't know why my brain is broken today. So I was playing Beat Saber before. You ever play Beat Saber and just do terribly, and then the next day you tear it up?
I'm pretty much always terrible at Beat Saber, so no.
It's funny because Lonnie and I compete on some of those Beat Saber songs. We're like top 50 in some of the songs on certain levels.
I played with Lonnie once. She's really good.
She's really good. She's better than I am. But yeah. So
I haven't played in a while though.
Humble brag. I don't know if it was that humble. Josh, I'm pretty good.
You're very humble, Ian. Humility is what you do best, buddy.
Brain, not working today. Help me out. We're talking Darla.
I'm just saying words, man. I don't know what's going on.
Tell me about the episode.
Okay, so I love this episode. Just like Fool for Love, this is God tier Angel Buffyverse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable that in a single night of television we got these two episodes.
Yeah, and I wish I got to experience it like that, because I'm sure as hell I didn't, because I don't think really Angel and Buffy aired in tandem. Like, they aired at the same time, but I'm pretty sure they were different time slots, different days. I don't know. I could be wrong there, but I don't think it did.
Herondale in the chat. This is a fully spoiled discussion. So, I left that off somehow. Did I?
That's the one you never forget. That's weird.
Everyone here has seen all of Angel, all of Buffy, so we tend to talk about all of it. And I don't know. Go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I'm just stretching. It's been a long morning, even though I've been awake like Shut up, Jack. Okay, so I love the first flashback scene we get with Darla and the Master. That whole sequence is just incredible. It might be my favorite flashback scene simply because it's so creepy. Like we got the veiled like nurse nun ladies, and
It's
the
very
music
grim.
is very
I mean, there are
Yeah.
actual. I love the use of leeches and the hint that like she was already the blood. She was already being bled in that scene, which I think was really interesting. And bleeding as a cure. I didn't make that connection. They were the leeches were the doctor was using a bleeding in its attempt to cure her,
Right.
which has that connection to what the Master does. It's this episode is so dense with detail like that.
Yeah. And I love the music. It's this kind of orchestral choir sort of it reminds me of something from like The Omen, but just dialed down on a little bit. It just fits really well, and it's got this really creepy vibe. And I just think the flashback scenes in this entire episode might be my favorite in the whole Buffyverse. I'm probably going to say that again as we get to something else, but
I'm a big fan of the Prodigal, the sequences in the Prodigal. But you know, as someone with daddy issues, the daddy issue episode is is a personal significance.
I was never in your way, boy.
I was never in your way, boy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But
Every
no, I don't know.
Time.
It's just that's how I feel right now, but I'll probably say that again several times as we go through the series.
Originally, I think when I started the episode guide, I was planning on saying Prophecy Girl is my favorite episode of Buffy, and then using that every time, so that every episode was my favorite episode of Buffy.
I get it. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like. An inevitable part of any fandom is list making, and especially if there are spin-offs comparing, like which show is better, which episode is better, yada yada yada. And it's a weird compulsion that I think we all have. Absolutely, I do it with Star Trek. I've done it with every series that I really enjoyed, be they movie, television, TV, books. But
I love how. As soon as you said Star Trek, Josh threw the live long and prosper up. I like
but
that.
it's also weirdly self-defeating.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
not really.
They're all phenomenal. Like the Prodigal, and I'm never gonna stop being a list-making fan. I am a list-making fan, but there's a weird the idea of better than. Kind of undercuts the fact that both Buffy and Angel are friggin' fantastic.
Yeah.
And we got both of them, you know?
And that's exactly why I say, like, right now, I'm saying that this episode has my favorite historical flashbacks, but they're all really good. None of them really suck. I mean, we got the Holt stuff kind of coming up soonish, and that's great. But I just really like the flashback stuff. And I love the Fool for Love connections here and how we get to see different sides of the same event. And I mentioned it in the rewatch, but I love how with the slow-mo, the cool, badass slow-mo walk scene.
The album cover.
Yes, that one, yeah.
The Whirlwind album cover.
Yeah. In Fool for Love, we're led to believe that that's Angelus, but it's actually Angel, and I think that's just really cool. I like that.
Yeah, that kind of detailed interaction between the two episodes. This is the only episode to me that feels uber crossover. Where they're kind of necessary to pair together. There are ones where a character says at the one episode, "I'm going to Sunnydale" or "I'm going to LA," but this one feels. Significant in the way it's integrated.
I would put money on both of these being written in tandem or at the same time because it's just done too well for it to not be. By
the way, in chat, Lizzie Cheshire. Sorry if I butchered that. Says tiny tangential note on Darla's memory is that syphilis causes memory loss as it affects the brain.
See, I wondered that.
She can't remember what her name was before Darla.
Oh, right. So that would add to, yeah, because we assume that it's just been so long that she forgot, but syphilis, yeah. That's interesting. But there's something very tragic about that too. Like she can't remember her name or really much of her life before becoming a vampire. There's something very, it's almost like a Shakespearean tragedy in a way, kind of.
Well, I mean, like on the show, because they are capable of turning back, vampires are victims. We know that from Damage.
We were victims too once upon a time.
So were we once upon a time. Tragedy is inherent to vampire lore. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Angel mentions how Darla is the Anglo-Saxon derivation meaning dear one, and Angel assumes that the Master gave her that name. And like the Master does seem to love her, if that's even possible. But I wonder if it's also got a bit to do with Darla and Angelus, how they were kind of in love with each other in a weird, twisted way.
Well, Mark plays the Master as, I find the Master, every time I rewatch the show, I find the Master so he plays the Master like he likes having fans.
Yeah, okay.
The line I always think of is in the first season where she brings one of the boys, I think it's in the first episode or something like that. She brings one of the boys, or second episode, she brings the guy I'm trying to make famous, Jesse, to the Master, and she's tried Jesse, and he says, "I'm your little dog. You bring me snacks." It's so weird, the way he's kind of petulant
he's not
about it.
He's not quite like a rock star. He doesn't act like a rock star, but there's a bit of bravado about him.
There's something.
He's almost like a
rock star was the first thing that came to mind. The way Mark,
like a stage actor, sort of diva kind of type. I kind of wonder because very, very few things in Whedon works are accidental. So I wonder if Darla was intentionally named that, but that would require a lot of planning. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that like in season one they had plans to bring her back in Angel.
Well, I would bet no, I don't think so. But I would bet with any kind of this is epic storytelling, and I would bet with any kind of epic, that occurs over centuries, you may not know all the details, but you're revealing them from the marble as you go along. When it's all done, we see the statue for what it is.
Like it could have been purely it just sounded like a nice name, a cool name to give her, and they just so happened to lock into a name that's but like it really, it's so good, like it's so cool that it doesn't really matter if it was intentional or not. Like,
it's another compulsion like that I have all the time, is like, was that intended? And on the other hand, it's like, who cares? It works. It's beautiful, but it is really hard to not wonder at intent a lot of times.
I also really love the scene with Lindsay and Darla in the boardroom when they start kissing and stuff. Like Julie Benz nails the performance. She has like this vulnerability, but also she's kind of psychotic, and even as a human, she's kind of scary and she feels very dangerous. And I really love that. Like that whole scene is so good. And lastly, I got a ton of notes here, but a lot of it's just stuff I've either already said or I can save for further down the line. But the last thing I want to say is I love the scene towards the end where we've got Darla and Angel with the baby in the box of rebellion. Darla says, "No more words, act," and then we cut to Angel acting to save her. But I love I don't know if it's a parallel or a contrast between like during the Boxer Rebellion period, Angel was desperate for Darla to save him, accept him even though he hadn't a soul. And then fast forward, and Darla is begging Angel to save her because she's struggling with having a soul and all of that.
The inversion is terrific.
Yeah,
by the way,
inversion.
we don't usually do kind of cross promotion stuff in the patron hangouts, but Jack and Sarah are the moderators.
And also, yes.
Jack and Sarah are moderators for the streams and the social media spaces and all of that, and I'm eternally grateful. Especially, I mean, I pay you well. Yeah, they do it out of the kindness of their own hearts. And Jack, Sarah, and Josh have started a new podcast. Jack, say more. Help me. Words.
It is called Muppet Sex and Trauma, and we are going through the TV series Farscape episode by episode. We've just released the first. We have an introduction episode up, and we just released the first proper episode, early access for patrons. But I believe, Sarah, it's going live for everybody on Monday, U.S. Canada time or something.
Yeah, I'll put it up midnight my time, which is Pacific Standard. So yeah, it's ready to go public.
Yeah, so if that's your thing, come and check us out. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited for it.
And Josh, have you seen the show before?
I've never seen an episode of Farscape before Sarah has started to take Jack and I through it. So this is me as fresh as can be.
Sarah is the guide.
Yeah. I saw a couple of episodes many years ago, but I don't remember it. So.
And link? Do you have a link to point people to? You can put it in the YouTube stream.
Yep.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
Let's go to the Lady Eternal. Can you remind me your name again? I'm sorry.
No, it's the lady. It's the Lady Eternal or Lady E. I'm good with that.
All right, good deal.
I tend to stay very anonymous online. For
Totally understand. I just wanted to make sure. I know that a lot of times the meeting handles and things we end up with are difficult to change, and I will remember that eventually. Probably will take 3 or 4, and I'll remember that that's your preference. But I just wanted to make sure I knew what your preference was.
No problem.
So I saw you mentioning you have some notes on this one.
I had a lot of interesting thoughts about why they framed her as a prostitute when they decided to bring in this backstory for her. Because especially with the fact that all the way back in Buffy season 1, they cannot possibly have had it in mind that they were going to have a spinoff for Angel, let alone that they were going to bring Darla's backstory into it in this particular way.
Right.
So, but it's interesting to me that they brought her backstory in as a prostitute in the 17th century, because it then frames all of the ways that she perceives power dynamics based on that essentially sense memory of her human life. As a prostitute, she would have relied on wealthy patrons who would have been exclusively men at the time. She would not have had a community really identity beyond that she was a prostitute. She would have been outside the bounds of decent society. So when you commented, especially in the guide, that she has a problem with consent, if you take that back to the fact that she was being paid to do things, whether she would have actually genuinely consented to do them or not.
Yeah.
So it recasts all of those power dynamic issues that you see with her in a very different perspective. And it also, for me, casts that lack of identity that Jack was talking about as very tragic in a real world route. That how many people in a 1609 settlement would have called a prostitute by their name?
Interesting.
So it really, for me, I thought it was kind of brilliant that they decided to do that. And it also makes the choice between the Master and Angel in that scene in, I think it was 1760. Angel was promising her everything that a wealthy patron in Europe would have promised her. Essentially, they would have promised her lodgings in a fine neighborhood, servants, a view, mimicry of fine society. She would have been their escort to evening entertainments if they weren't married.
Yeah.
Things like that would have been what someone in her position at that time would have aspired to. And when she was, to use the word I always default to because of my Vampire the Masquerade background, when she was embraced by this being that can't show his face above ground, she's parroting back the words for this person that saved her life and gave her a place to belong where she didn't have to prostitute herself. But then Angel, she finds him, and he's everything that she could have wanted, promising her all the things she could have wanted in her former life. And that draw was something she couldn't resist.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love this track you're going down because there's a connection. I didn't, in the video, I didn't really do anything with her human profession. And yet, the episode seems to me very much written from the perspective of the men in her life, and I did highlight that. The master, like the structure of the story, relates to the men that come and go in her life, and in the scene, boy, that really puts the "Why haven't you kissed me yet" scene between her and Lindsay in a very different light, where she's sort of, like her Angel as her patron is a wonderful reading too, because she feeds him pleasure through their relationship together. He finds him, feeds him, babies him. I love it.
And the thing is too that, and Josh just said it in the chat too, that she treats Lindsay like a patron because Wolfram and Hart, Lindsay is the face of them, but they're paying her expenses as a human. So that again is putting it back in that context.
Yeah.
And when you see that scene where she's going after the Romany caravan that cursed Angel, she has no control over Spike and Drusilla. If you rewatch all the Whirlwind flashback scenes, you see her not controlling the group herself, but manipulating the control of the group through Angelus, because he was the man, and she, as a prostitute, would have been used to wielding power by manipulating her patrons rather than dictating the terms herself.
Yeah.
So where she was trying to promise the Baro-san of the caravan the safety of his family in exchange for removing the curse, Spike's in the caravan killing them because she has no control over him.
Yeah.
So
Angel's focus
I love that recast.
Yeah, Angel's focus is usually chaos, and certainly Spike and Drew are chaotic influences that he kind of brings in. No, I love that reading. That's wonderful. That's yet another one of those that I'm like, oh, damn it! I wish that was in the video. That's great.
The only other thing, and I don't know how much time I have left, but the only other thing that I had notes on this episode is that in that scene where she's talking to Lindsay about how she can feel her body dying, it always calls back to me, and I wonder how much the screenwriter was influenced by the Peter Beagle novel, The Last Unicorn, and the I see Lauren yelling, the cartoon adaptation of it, because when Schmendrick saves the unicorn by converting her into a human, one of the first things she says is she can feel the body dying all around her. And as she progresses through their search for the unicorns at Haggard's castle, she forgets her immortal life as a unicorn. And she loses herself in this identity of being human. She forgets who she was until the final battle with the Red Bull, where she has to be turned back into a unicorn to save all of them. And then at the end, having lived a mortal life, she learned regret, which no immortal ever had. She learned regret by being human.
I'm not familiar with The Last Unicorn, but it sounds pretty spot on. It's nice.
It's free on Amazon Prime. Go watch it. It's a seminal fantasy novel. Christopher Lee actually he insisted that there were certain parts of the book that had to be in the movie. When he was cast to play Haggard, he showed up to record his lines with a copy of the book saying, "You're not cutting this out. You're not cutting this down. You're not cutting that." He was insistent. He was such a fan of it. So, Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, Tammy Grimes, they all, I think Alan Arkin, amazing voice cast. In the adaptation, and the adaptation was very, very close to the original novel because Beagle was the one that worked on it. But when I hear Darla saying those things in this novel, I can't help hearing the parallels to that progression for the unicorn, for Amalthea.
No, I like it. Yeah, that seems pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
Not
enough. That's
no. There's, like Jack said, there's so many little tiny details, like I hate to call it this, but I always remember it from Phantom of the Opera, the Punjabi noose that Angel grabs Lindsay in the parking garage.
Yeah.
That's a callback to that. There's so many tiny little callbacks throughout this whole episode. It's incredible how much they crammed in.
It's dense with detail.
It is. It really is.
All right. Well, good stuff. One thing I forgot, by the way, Russell I saw has left us.
The dance of capitalist superiority.
The button worked. Thank you, though, for the dance, Sarah. By the way, I forgot. I wanted to wish our very own Sarah a happy birthday. Sarah's birthday was this week.
Thank you, dear.
Sarah E. Hey, how you doing? Happy birthday.
Thank you. But it's actually, I think Sarah C should go because she said she's had the shot and is feeling sleepy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't.
You're good. Just sooner than later. It doesn't have to move.
No, let's do it. It's a thing now. Sorry, I can't track chat, and I always mean to ask: is there anyone that needs to take off early? So, hi. How are you doing?
Yo, I just got second dose, and I can feel my cognitive capacities.
Is it Pfizer?
Moderna. I could not. No reason, man. It just is what I thought.
Lonnie got the Pfizer yesterday, and she's wiped today. So the second one is tough.
Yeah. This may have been a mistake because suddenly I'm like, oh no, do I have anything? I'm here to say I love Darla, man. If I come away having said nothing else, just I love Darla to the point that I just feel like her character, for the little that she's in, because when you look at actually how many episodes she's in, it's comparatively few.
Yeah.
But you chip away and there's just more, all the stuff that you said, Lady Eternal, everything you were saying, I was vibing so hard, stuff I didn't consider. And whether it was intentional or not, those kinds of dynamics, the way they're baked into how she interacts with other people and men, I just loved what you were saying, to shout out.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, super tight.
Well, before you go on, I just want to interrupt and say I don't know why you would expect that you need to be coherent given the inane nonsense that I've been babbling this entire time.
Well,
so
for the sake of not wasting anybody's time, because I'm sure some people have, more or less, notes and stuff. Yeah. Anyhow, I will try to be conservative with my time, but yeah, man, genuinely, I am just so endlessly fascinated by her because she like, because she lacks this this identity, what is she chasing with Angelus even when she lets him back into the group? Why? Like, I don't know, go turn some other fucking loser, like, why are you even, I'm gonna give you a chance? Like, that's almost like a human thing to do. Like, it's so interesting. Like, she depends, I mean, again, stating the obvious, but she depends on him as much as he depended on her. Yada yada.
Yeah.
I find I need you I've always needed you. Maybe as Lady Eternal was saying something about whatever subconsciously, someone could give some like sociological thing about basing her value on external, specifically men's.
Well, I think it's very interesting that the episode is written about with the orbit of all three of those men to her at those various points in the story. There's also the Oedipal aspect of their relationship. I mean, that couple is steeped in Oedipus. So she is as gross as it is. She is also parental. I mean, with the sire relationship with him, but you've got that. I don't know, the double down of just weird, messed up dynamic between the two of them. And next season they both admit that they never loved each other. All the damage they did when she's laying in the alleyway, the one good thing that they did, she says, famous last words, was Connor.
You be sure to tell him that. That's one of those scenes that is just so transcendent to me. Not to get ahead of myself, but you be sure to tell him that, and the alley and the steak. Like, I just it's so much.
It's a lot.
I find myself equal parts when I think about Darla wishing that's such a good conclusion, just drama wise, and also wishing I wanted more from her. I want the exploration that Angel gets, or Spike gets, even. That I just want more of her.
Yeah.
I want to see what she looks like with a soul for a little bit longer. I want to, you know what I mean? As a human, I wanted to dig into that a bit more. It feels like it doesn't last quite enough. I want to see what it looks like to have, because the way I read it, you were like, oh, like the memory loss from syphilis. I mean, obviously the way I read it was she's just been Darla for so freaking long.
Yeah.
Who else is she going to be? Especially because that person was, by at least someone's standards, maybe not her own, a nothing person. So Darla was the only thing she was, and you have the added layer of a name that was given to her. I think it's interesting also. Oh God! Now this is where it starts to cartwheel out of my realm. But I feel like Jane, when he gets injected by Simon in that one Firefly episode, and he starts to do the "Why are you so shiny?"
Shiny lights.
Yeah, but the idea that they're all given a name by someone else, you know what I mean? A level of depersonalization, just already you don't belong to yourself, because who else was she going to? Anyway,
well, but and then there's the episode in season 5 where Spike is in love with Drew, and Angel deliberately beds her, for lack of a better term, to show him that no one owns anything. No one, I just wanted to draw that connection real quick, because
and that's what's so interesting to me. The juxtaposition of these two relationships, again, both weird and messed up by definition, both have some level of Oedipal layer, I guess, because there is a parentalness to turning someone, yada yada. But even as Bonnie and Clyde's go, that's more Spike and Drew. There is a warped, dark passion there, and Darla and Angel have it too, and Angelus have it too. But it's different, and I think they sort of foil each other in the none of them none of them have humanity, but that Darla and Angelus don't even have an actual proper loyalty to each other. They abandon each other, mutually pretty frequently. And so it's so interesting. But then how can you spend, right? You get your soul, you get whatever you want to call humanity. How do you define your relationship to that person who you have spent 150 years with? And that is what comes out in this as they talk, especially when she is begging him for
Yeah.
this. It's just so
for the gift.
I mean, again, who else would it be? She effectively has no one else. She's a woman out of time, and a woman not even with the the dark, corrupted world out of time that she could join. She's completely out of time. She's like him when he was first, restored. But it's still so of course she would go back to him just by necessity. But there's that weird familiarity there that I am just so intrigued by that I wish they hadn't.
Yeah, that fiery intimacy between
whatever
the two
it
characters.
is.
Yeah.
To know another person for that long and to know exclusively, again, by narrative definition, only the dark and corrupted pieces of them, because that was all there was.
Yeah.
I as you can see, I don't have. I didn't even realize. I forgot that this was even happening, and I got the notification because I had resigned myself to my bed, as you can see. So I don't have my book of notes. All I have is TLDR. Darla is so freaking cool, and she's so freaking interesting. And I don't know, man. Julie Benz, I'm happy to listen to what everyone else has to say, on the recorded version of this. But that's, if you have anything, any bone to toss me right now. But
no, I mean, that's the that's when it's good, it's this good. I mean, that's the thing. Is I think Angel is at its best as good or better than Buffy, but it's way more swingy a show than Buffy. Buffy is so consistent. And
higher highs. Yes, yeah.
I like all the Mynheer stuff this season. Are You Now or Have You Ever? This one, I mean, it's not just him, but those specifically where every single scene can be pulled apart and find more detail.
Yeah. Also, I mean, again, stating the obvious here, not everything has to be the hottest take, but I love having to define everything I say with qualifiers. The way that
yeah, don't stop.
It's an affectation. But when the fact that we in this episode find out, I think is significant to talk about my boy for a moment. That Angel in 1900, Angelus in 1900 is a soul Angelus. I always think that's a very
so cool,
interesting. It's such an understood because they don't make it the focal point.
No,
they don't go, oh my. It's just you go, oh. Because especially if you saw Fool for Love first, you're interesting. That was some things of it is Angel trying to make himself fit into we I think I've talked about this last time, a world that's no longer his or a role that's no longer his, and there's sort of Darla in this season, which again I wish they'd done it more, but is I don't know what the proper narrative term here is, a foil, something. She is she is a consideration for the same thing that Angel has gone through and is going through this season. In what she's doing in her accelerated, humanity back to being a vampire, what am I thing. And so just that's interesting too, right? That as he's sort of forcing himself as a souled vampire to do something, she's still, an evil person, but she's sort of overplaying the, vampire Darla because good Lord, what else does she know how to do? But it's not quite right. Because girls got
I read that as that is, to me, is 400 years of acquired memory. That's familiarity, that's habit and repetition. But it's interesting.
And that's what Angelus had too. Yeah, same thing with Angelus. He gets his soul back. He's like, okay, I don't really have another template for what I'm supposed to be.
Their compulsion in both cases was to be vampire. They both made the same choice in that situation, and Darla let him back in, and he didn't, which I think is. I mean, if you reverse she did briefly.
A minute.
Yeah, but he felt the call of the soul, and that's also the reason why he refused to do the same thing. I don't know. It's great stuff. All right.
Great stuff. Thank you, Lady Eternal, for the literary foil. I will stick around and listen. So
you're welcome, hon.
Up to you. Get some rest when you need.
Feel better.
And who wants to go next? All right, Lauren. Oh, Tom. Sorry, we'll go Lauren then Tom.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
That's why I don't. That's why I don't ask that question. That's the. That's the dreaded high school. Like, all right. So who knows the answer? Bueller, anyone? No, just pick people, Ian.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so my first thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we saw Angel drawing like that, it was Angelus and he was stalking Buffy.
I think that's a big tell. I think one of the complicated things about this season is the Scoobies and Lorne, not the Scoobies, the investigatees and Lorne are telling him, don't do this. Leave her alone. She's not asking to be rescued. And clearly Wolfram and Hart have an agenda in this situation and in him being back. But it's hard as a viewer to see Darla and to see Darla vulnerable and to see Darla suffering and to be pro leave her be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean that was going to be another point where I mean Julie Benz just wow, I'm going to say it too. Freaking phenomenal. And I love how she was kind of descending into madness, but in a very different way than Juliet Landau did with Drew. I mean, gosh, the way they both played it, it's so amazing.
The drawings that you were talking about, to me, that is an indicator. Like, I think of Giles standing up and talking to Amy and it's obsession, selfish, banal. Yeah, Jenny, Amy and Jenny. It's obsession, selfish, banal obsession. There's no choice in obsession. There's no. It's obsession. And in the episode that I just finished the script for, the trial, Cordy refers to it as his addiction. His interest in Darla as an addiction, and the other Cordy is his sponsor, his recovering vampaholic sponsor character from the first season. So to pose that as addiction, I think are two big tells that there is something unhealthy there. Even though I think that like the show does Grey so well. Like we are ambivalent. Like we want him to save her, but she has to want to be saved too.
Yeah. And I think it was Andre who pointed it out in the YouTube chat, where like, why does Angel want to save her anyway? He flat out says, "You damned me." Why does he care? Why doesn't he want her to suffer? Because it's not that simple. They say that they never loved each other, but there's still a history. And good point, Boris. If he can save her, then he can save himself.
Yeah.
And
I think that's part of the drive yes, they have all the chemistry and the history, but seeing himself in that situation, and wanting to be her Whistler, I think is a big influence.
Yeah. And again, the flashback scenes, I loved. I always forget when watching Full for Love, when Drusilla says, "I smell fear," that she is looking at the alley, that she's smelling the fear coming from the missionaries. I always forget.
Yeah.
And every time I watch Darla, it's like, oh shit. But it's just so cool seeing how it tied in, and like how the writers and everyone were able to make it flow so well. And we didn't realize until this episode watching Full for Love when Angel says, "Well, I guess that makes you one of us now." After Spike kills the Slayer, it's like, that's Sold Angel.
Yeah, the plots are not necessarily. The plots don't inform each other, but there's definitely a Rashomon difference in perspective and getting the full story and understanding different people's points of view. that occurs from seeing both episodes. I almost prefer it to having to watch the episode to get the full plot. Do you know what I mean? Like if one had been a cliffhanger into the other one, to me that would have been less interesting than the ways in which these two artistically and thematically reveal each other.
Yeah, I would love, like, it doesn't even have to be a full series the way Buffy and Angel were. It can be like a mini season, like, 12 episodes like the first season of Buffy, but just give me more of Angelus and Darla and Spike and Drew. Just I want all of it.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah. Well, I think I was thinking about that when Sarah was talking. The best stuff on the show definitely leaves us with that feeling. Is there anything that overstayed its welcome? Like and that's a less fun question, but I've been thinking about that because of Firefly. The initiative, yeah. But was the initiative ever good? I'm saying like outstayed its welcome. I'm not sure the initiative was ever welcome, but like that first season of Firefly is spectacular, but is part of the reason that it's as spectacular as it was because it was finite? Is that is that one of the reasons why we remember that show with such incredible fondness?
That's interesting because, that just made me think of, I don't know how many of us here have watched it, but Gravity Falls. And that show, Boris, that show, shoot, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but the writer and creator flat out said, I'm planning this just for the 3 seasons. I'm writing out the episodes I want, and the finale is going to be the finale, and that's that. But like watching it, it's like there's still more. There's still more.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's like, okay, I'm glad you tied up all the loose ends. Alex Hirsch, there you go. But
Andre in chat asks if I'm quoting Vision. I am not. I did quote Vision for why you should watch Angel. A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. But what I'm wondering is can we carry that a little bit further? I'm not sure it's true. I mean, in Buffy and Angel, there is so much good. Ethan is another example of I wanted more. Ethan was gone too soon. The Ripper stuff was gone too soon.
That was definitely. And honestly, would the initiative had been better if Seth Green didn't want to leave that season, and if Maggie Walsh's actress, I'm blanking on her name too, but if she didn't say, hey, I want out.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Well, we would have had more of the original Vision, but
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I sidetracked you.
It's okay. But I love Drew's offhanded, maybe I can be Mummy someday. It's like, oh shit.
Yep. For obvious reasons, that's the stinger for the initiative video, or the trial video.
Mm-hmm.
What a cool piece of foreshadowing.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering because you and Jack were talking about it a bit, like during the Angel and Master scene, and like, was there retconning? And kind of, sort of, was there, because when in season 1 of Buffy, I want to say it was the Angel episode, when the Master was talking about Angel, he was like, oh, Angelus, he was my favorite. He was to be at my right hand, kind of. So it's like, was he though?
Yeah.
you were kicking his ass. You were going to kill him.
Yeah. No, good point.
But yeah. But this is such a great episode, and I don't know it. I said it in the YouTube chat. I'm going to say it again here. Sarah, I cannot wait for your costume takes. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait to hear you talk about the costumes.
Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
No, that's it. It's one of the best of Angel series. I love it.
All right, Lauren. Thank you. Let me go to Tom, and then we're gonna go to Boris. Tom, sir.
Ian, how are you doing, young man?
Good. How are you doing? I finished
I'm
the script
okay.
today. Everything's coming
Yeah.
up, Ian.
Yeah, I'm at work. My workmates kind of hate me right now because I got my second shot on
Oh, nice.
Monday,
Congrats.
and I got a sore arm. That was it.
Yeah. Which one did you get?
No, I got no other side effects at all, really.
What is it? Moderna, J&J, or
Pfizer.
Pfizer? Oh, Pfizer.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I get the second one in a week or two. So hopefully,
almost everybody else at work has gotten, some kind of, ugh.
Completely worth it, of course.
And of course, they're blaming it on white male privilege. It's like...
Well, yeah, I'm still cultivating the Buffy tirade the first Buffy tirade I'm going to have in my head so that Bill Gates can read my mind and get into Buffy and tell everyone. But Darla, where does
Darla.
this? Yeah, where you? There were two people in the chat that mentioned that they got to see the this live and got to see.
Yes.
I asked you that the last time. Got to watch these.
Yeah, when it first aired. Yeah. This. I remember very distinctly seeing this and just being blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Fool for Love and then Darla, and we had when I started watching Angel, I had no clue that it was going to have any kind of tie-in, and then they just wow. Everybody else said, but I gotta say, Julie Benz just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
The scene I always remember is it always gets me in the feels kind of is favor you think I use a favor you damned me.
Yeah, one of the most memorable. You know what that is? I think also there are Angel has so few moments of open vulnerability.
Yeah.
And for him to the hurt, the pain that we feel, and David plays that moment with almost on the verge of tears. It's one of my favorite bits of his performance in the series, probably the way there's this shock and pain and disbelief at what she said and how that perspective is so off. It's marvelous.
And when I thinking back, because for both episodes, I always think that they are so full of in the best form of the phrase possible, full of fan service.
Yeah.
Because we get backstory about Spike, we get backstory about Darla and Drusilla and their relationships and the Master. We get to see the Master when he was.
I love when episodes start to feel like a piece of fan fiction. I mean, you can't do it too often, but
it was
the trial has that scene where Darla tries to explain to the guy in the bar how to turn her. He's been a vampire since the early 90s. And it feels like a scene that is straight out of fan fiction.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Where did you think they were going at this point? Or sort of like, I don't know. I'm still struck by the Fool for Love and this back to back. What's the pairing with the body? Someone mentioned that later on. There's the body and Oh, Epiphany. The Body and Epiphany. And then they went on break for 3 months.
Yeah.
Boy, I can't imagine a 3-month break after The Body. I mean, that's quite the pairing as well. Even if Epiphany is a little bit of a different episode as compared to this. Yeah, I don't know. Amazing stuff.
But am I still? Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you're here.
And this is this may be my favorite Lindsay episode, with the possible of the end being the other one.
Which one's that?
It's not the. Is it the end or the dead end? I'm sorry, dead end. Where he gets his
oh, the
evil
hand.
Yeah. Evil hand.
Yeah, that's his departure episode, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He says a line in that to me has stuck with that is completely informing my interpretation of this season, which is don't play their game. And to me, that bookends Angel in Blind Date saying their game, their rules. One opens and the other one kind of closes, and then the show goes a different direction after that. But the whole idea of Wolfram and Hart setting up these things for Angel with false dichotomies in them to turn Darla or not to turn Darla. You know, to save her, to do the trials or to not do the trials, and they win in every single one of them. Where the key, it's that the line from War Games that will never be safe to use again, like who are you gonna call? The only winning move is not to play. You know.
Right.
Yeah, really great stuff. Was there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
The one thing, the great line from the Master from 1760. I give it a century tops.
I give it a century. Yeah.
That I mean, it's a great line, but it's kind of anachronistic for that period. But I think it's maybe the Master is the one who popularized it eventually.
Well, and he's yeah. That I'm always reminded of when he's turns to the Anointed One and to rate the. What do you think? 7.5.
Yeah. What do you think? 5.1.
Yeah, 5.1. The earthquake, which is Southern California common thing to chat about over coffee.
Oh, exactly.
What do you think? 5.1. Good stuff.
I also wonder because he wasn't evident in 1760. This brings up the question: when does the Master pick up Luke?
Oh yeah, interesting.
Luke had been with him for a while, at least in 1845, because that's when last time he got caught napping. But so it was just one of those fan things. You wonder.
Yeah, Josh says Luke was out running errands.
When does Luke come into his life? Yeah,
he was out getting snacks in that scene.
Yeah.
But
I always have to remind. I have mentioned before. I watch a lot of Buffy reactors. People who've seen watching Buffy for the first time, and they're all to a person astonished how when we get to passion, how horribly evil, incredibly evil Angelus is. And maybe even a couple of episodes later, how horribly evil Angelus is. I have to keep reminding them. Remember what the Master said about Angel? He was the most vicious creature I ever met.
Yeah.
You can basically impress the Master with how evil he was.
Well, yeah. First thing he did was slaughter his own town.
Yeah.
I want the town. Yeah. Someday there's an edit online someplace of all of the Whirlwind flashbacks in order.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Someday I want to. Maybe Jack and I should do a reaction to that where we watch all of them. And I'm interested to see how it informs the perspective of the show or how the scenes kind of work together. But I mean, all the way through to 1940s Angel and so forth. It's interesting to think of them breaking up and kind of roaming around and Spike eating Nazis. All right, but well, I appreciate it. Let me.
All right, thank you.
Let me go to Mr. Boris. Mr. Boris, sir, how's it going?
Hey. Yeah, things are going all right.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I finally broke a 3-month gap of video things, so that was good for me.
It's
just brief meme stuff, but
that's
it's
not
good.
my record, so good on you.
Oh well, you do longer things these days, so that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, Darla the episode. Pretty good. Full for Love is not like one I'm really hyped about, but there's a lot of real things I like a lot about it. Seeing the Master is great. The whole thing where like Angel with the soul is like trying to get back with Darla is great. And the You Damn Me is great. It's very good stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of continuity, Lauren already brought up that point of the Master thing that I was going to mention. Though this episode actually does kind of correct something.
What?
In that, because or if you were thinking about it, because with 5x5, there was kind of you might have assumed that Angel just kind of left after that, and when Filthy Soul, and then and then Angel is in the alley, and then he goes off. And you might have just assumed that he just did that, but we see here what happened, because the thing with Angel, the episode, is Angel says what's with the schoolgirl uniform? Last time I saw you, it was kimonos, and so this kind of rectifies that and kind of pulls it together, because we're obviously in the Boxer Rebellion, and Darla has her old getup going on, and that so this establishes that this was actually the last time they met up.
Yeah, I cannot imagine having to track lore for something like this as you write it linearly. I remember reading that the writers on Star Trek had a huge, Next Generation specifically, had a huge notebook full of lore and dates and what was happening on which planet at which time to try and keep it straight. And obviously, their lore didn't always even out the entire time either.
That's true. The Klingons had a bunch of different faces at first time.
Yeah,
and
I can't imagine the undertaking of keeping all of those details in order.
Oh yeah, it's expansive. And so yeah, we have that whole Darla thing. Oh yeah, kind of going back to what others have said, Angel is kind of like the proxy man person that kind of is kind of a gateway to higher society that Darla may not have been able to reach in these circumstances, and I guess it's kind of pointed that Darla will eventually have to come back to the Master eventually, and once Angel was gone, she kind of had to roll back to him, as the Master kind of alludes to. It's it won't last. And so I am kind of curious, what ended up happening with those two in the night for most of the 1900s, because there must have been some wild times between that and whenever the Master gets trapped in that place in Sunnydale. So that's kind of would be neat. I just check my notes. Sorry. I kind of find it ironic when because the Master's we're gonna do all this evil stuff for the old ones, and Angel's hey, this humanity's nice. It's nice to live among the people, and you get to do all these things, and it's kind of ironic that one, he's gonna end up in the sewers eventually because of the whole soul thing and the rats and stuff. And also that he will eventually want to destroy the world in Buffy season 2, whereas Spike's no, let's not do that. I want my Happy Meals.
Spike's advocating for the Happy Meals with legs.
Yes. Although I've been thinking recently it was that whole thing kind of a spiel of crap, because because people pointed out that like near the end of the episode, like Spike's like, oh no, he's gonna kill her, and then he's like, I'm gonna leave. So like, was he just like faking that just to get to Drew, or was that just like, or is he actually legit?
I don't think he wanted to end the world. And I think if he can get Drew, which he had at that point, and get out of the situation with a dead Buffy, all the better if you're Spike.
Yeah. Although if Buffy dies, then they're gonna have some shenanigans.
If you're season 2 Spike.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of fan service, there was a bit of like Lindsay's subtext in this episode because like Lindsay and Darla are macking it on, and then like Darla's like, "You're not the." It's like I'm not the one you want to screw, and that's like the whole the Lindsay Angel subtext going on because he's got that kind of like man hate crush going on, and he's.
Well, they seem like the energy in the trial. Do you love her, Lindsay? You know, to me seems like big and little brother. Angel and Angel leaving the sign on the back of Lindsay's truck saying he hates police. They just have that big brother, little brother vibe to me, and you know, Angel having had the girlfriend that the little brother wanted to have at that. I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic.
Well, I guess you could kind of compare it to the Buffy Faith thing too, where it's like you could kind of read it as like a relationship thing, or just like a sibling rivalry or something, and like there's definitely something there, you know.
Well, the lesbian subtext I think in that was much more explicit. If there's a subtext like for a relationship like that between Angel and Lindsay, I've never read that argument before. I'd be interested to.
I mean, I'm sure there's some ship somewhere out there. Like,
of course, there's ships for everything. Yes, everything.
Yes, and
Jack and I
guess it's like, yes. Yeah, I guess just to wrap up, because some of the other stuff is kind of nebulous, and maybe we'll go back to it later if there's time. But as far as like the whole like you damn me reading, like I kind of view it less like an accusatory thing as much as just like, you know, he's just like, you just don't get it, do you? Like, you know, like this whole thing sucks.
Accusatory. I read hurt. David delivers that line with so much pain. But yeah, you just don't get it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like it's a good reading because it's just like, and as you said, people said like he's more vulnerable in that scene than he usually is. It's like the other like big one I can kind of think of is in Home when he's like talking to Connor and like he's gonna like blow himself up, and it's like, oh no, and like you really feel that like, you know, he's losing, he's like his son is gonna be lost here. It's like you really feel that pain, and it's good stuff. Like, it's one of those lines I kind of forgot about for a while, and then like I watched a clip of the scene, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, David's wonderful in that scene. That scene for me is just mitigated by my feelings about Connor.
Well, I was talking about the damn me part.
Oh,
in that last
never mind.
But like that, but also Holmes' scene is really good too, and it's got to be pointed out. But we'll get to that in season 4 and all that.
It's just, the roots all the way back here are really interesting.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Like, you know, both episodes pretty good. I might lean to full. Oh, wait, one other thing to mention. Like, yeah, you mentioned this one was more tightly written, and like I don't think I really realized that until watching both of these again. Like, it really is that Riley thing in the Fool for Love that kind of like is kind of structurally weird. Like, there isn't really like anything that feels out of place in this episode. It all kind of like flows pretty well.
Yeah. Like
as far as like, you know, Wolf from Heart and Darla and Angel, all kind of, it all flows and ties into stuff a little more. Whereas like the Riley stuff, it feels a little off kilter.
Yeah, it feels inserted because they were writing him off of the show at that point, and that feels that doesn't necessarily fit into the arc of that season. It's more sort of I mean, it does in the way of sort of separating her out, and I don't know how to live in this world if these are the choices. But everything here feels according to the plan of the season.
Well, I think the Riley stuff, like, it fits in the season. I just don't know if it really fit into that episode exactly. Like,
well,
I think
that's what I mean is like the scenes between Oz and Veruca. There's one or two scenes earlier between Oz and Veruca feel sort of like inserts into those episodes as opposed to things that serve the episodes themselves. And that
Well, I guess
Fool for Love has that too.
Well, I guess with Beer Bad, at least that kind of helped push Willow into talking to Parker, I guess. So there's that.
Yeah, didn't need it.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
All right, bud. Jack, do you mind holding the talking stick for 2 minutes? I'll be right back.
Sure, I can do that.
Tell us about your pain and your feelings, Jack. It's a sense and sensitivity callback. I'll be right back.
How much time have we got? No, I'm kidding.
Hey, Jack, I won't leave you alone.
Oh,
hello,
Sarah. Sensitivity. I actually saw a reaction to that this week, and man, is that so funny! Like, goddamn, like Painbow,
big time.
I haven't seen it in a little while, but I do remember it being quite humorous.
There is a lot.
I know, and it's so harsh in the review. Like it was.
I mean, like I said, Sarah Michelle Gellar was having so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was having a blast in that episode.
It also helps if you like Kate.
Kate's all right, guys.
I like Kate.
I like Kate.
Worked better.
We mitigated the Kate question enough times.
She just
You're gonna come back in the crowd. Just saying.
I like Kate. I like Connor. I like Willow. I mean, I like Dawn.
Wait.
I like Riley. I like.
You like Connor?
He said Connor.
I like Connor. I don't hate Connor. Wait. I don't hate Connor.
There it is.
Okay, that's
neutral.
That's better.
I don't have a problem with the Connor Cordelia.
Oh,
Ship them. I don't.
Okay.
I think
I'm gonna draw the fire right here.
It just doesn't bother me. That's all. It's not something I ship, but it doesn't bother me.
And he was still like what, 16?
I mean, it's supposed to be messed up. Like it's supposed to be bad.
It number one, it is, but number two, I don't know how many of you have seen Once Upon a Time, but if you get to Once Upon a Time, like season 6, and you have the whole arc of the child of Belle and Rumpelstiltskin, the whole time I'm watching that arc and the way that they did that, I'm like, they are ripping off Connor from Angel, and they're doing it badly. Like, this is what it looks like when it's done badly.
Oh my
God. Connor was what it looked like when it went badly. That's what it looks like when it goes worse.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was so bad. And they ripped off the musical episode, too. And I'm like, guys, if you're going to rip off one of the most seminal works in television history, at least try.
Yeah.
Ian, I didn't have to do anything. I just get back and everybody's got to say.
I think we're forgetting the way the talking stick is supposed to work, everybody.
I mean, I'm not complaining because Ian, I was just gonna start singing Kylie Minogue again, so you know.
Oh, darn me!
And the problem is,
well, I don't have a problem with it clearly.
All right, so Russell took off. So it looks like Josh and Sarah, right? All right, let's go to Sarah, then we'll go to Josh, and Josh, you start the next time.
Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
I am better now. I mean, we don't need to just move on.
Well, that was a segue.
Yeah.
Right. So I there was a question in chat because somebody had mentioned the whole thing about Angel calling it a kimono, but they're actually in China.
Yeah, I was wondering.
So I looked this. I looked this up, and what well, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but what she's wearing should be called a hanfu.
Okay.
And apparently it was earlier versions of it did inspire the kimono, because of course, as clothing styles in regions that are near to each other do influence each other. So it's not wildly off, but it is clearly it's of them going, Asia, it's a thing.
Yeah, and I was going to make an argument for Angel just sort of casually tossing that off, but Angel is supposed to be well-read and particularly educated as a character. Especially that first and second season, Angel has that house with the artifacts that he has accumulated over time and all of that. So, yeah, it's not particularly in character for him to do that. But
yeah,
the 90s.
Meh. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought I would look up what it should actually be called.
Yeah.
And so hopefully I got the pronunciation not too far off, just reading from Wikipedia. So I do love this episode. I love Darla as a character. I mean, how could I not? This is great. It is just remarkable. I mean, I am a fan of Tim Minear. We know this.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would have been like if he'd been in charge of the series.
Well, I remember I read a bunch of I've been being braver and reading more articles involving the Whedonanigans that have been being published lately. And Charisma Carpenter talked about how Tim was the showrunner for either season 3 or the show had a couple of different showrunners, starting with David Greenwalt, and Tim may have been one of them for a little while. I don't know enough about it, but she has spoken positively of either Tim or Tim and David on that show. So yeah. I mean, who knows? But the other thing too is I think. I don't think it was strictly that. The show's reinvention of itself was part of its struggle to find an audience in the same way, which is such a pain, right? It was airing after Buffy for a little while until they switched networks. I get the Buffy fan resistance to get into Angel because I had it. But, now having been completely enmeshed in both of them, it's such a sad situation that the show, like this episode, as someone mentioned earlier, this episode is to me what the show could have been if it were less swingy. This is peak, this is the plan, this is what everything reflective of what everything could have been if they weren't constantly having to make those adjustments, which I've heard was network interference.
Yeah, so often that this is the thing that filmmaking and television making is art and business, and these two things do not always mix well.
No.
And to quote movies with Mike, no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah, Lizzie in the chat says I was guilty of Buffy fan Angel resistance. There's a lot of people that are. I mean, you can see it I see it in the episode guides. The Buffy episode guides get twice as many views as the Angel episode guides, and I think the Angel season 2 episode guides are more interesting. So there's still that resistance to other fans of the Buffyverse picking this up. So I get it. They really had struggles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when it's good, it's good, and when it's great, it's this, which is a remarkable piece of filmmaking. I mean, there are some bits where the history is a little bit fudged because there's the sort of lack of understanding of history that is a part of this, because it's interesting to me that we're starting Darla in 1609, which is pretty much right after Jamestown was founded. So there would not be a brick house and that's like this.
Yeah, well, I was guessing. The date was so specific that I just looked up events in that time. But what's your reading on it?
Well, I think it's. I guess we're imagining that in their world they built the settlement a lot faster than you would actually.
Maybe, yeah.
A house and servants and all the stuff. I mean, clearly she must have been. I don't even think for that level of wealth she wouldn't have been a prostitute. She would have been a courtesan. Like, she would have had wealthy patrons, not your casual things. So as Lady E was talking about there. So, but the thing about that is this time period was dominated by the religious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was an extremely Protestant era when Catholics were being hunted, and yet the master comes in coded as a Catholic priest. Because she says father and all that stuff, and it's really weird to me.
Well,
because I'm like, this time is like everything is dominated by like this is religious wars time.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a you've set something in history without fully understanding the time period that you're writing in, unless we imagine that the timeline of things in Buffyverse is different than it is in our world.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the other example we ran into was the Tunguska thing. Just thinking about history out of order, the Tunguska thing that in Shadow? No. Listening to Fear, when they're in the library and Willow's looking up events of other meteor landings, she mentions the Tunguska thing in Russia. She calls it the mispronounces it or whatever it was, is off by about 10 years, and I'm sure that's just an error in the script itself. But right around that time, too, we see in Selfless is the Russian Revolution, which Anya had a part in, with helping massacre the royal family.
Was that meant to be the Russian Revolution, or one of the ones leading up to it?
One of the ones leading up to it, in 1910 instead of 1916, I think it was.
Yeah.
But either way, history gets a little hazy when you've got wish demons.
Americans, right?
Yeah, well, in Americans, right? But wish demons granting wishes.
It's true. That's true.
The literal truth and the textual truth.
But the costumes are very on period. People who were wondering about my costume takes. The thing about these costumes, they are period appropriate, but there's not going to be a lot of how they probably got these costumes. They wouldn't be made for this, obviously. Theaters tend to rent out their costumes, and like I'm sure in LA people have like warehouses full that get rented, because you're not going to make something when you're only going to use it once, and you're not like, it's not like Outlander that's actually set in the past, that they made all theirs. So they would have gone to see someone there, and clearly they got good advice. But I can tell from touches here and there that these are made for theater, not reproductions. It's things like the way that the sleeve is set in is set to be to make movement easier.
Mm-hmm.
So there's modern touches there, but they look the period, and you have to be a nerd like me to notice stuff like the sleeve is set differently than you would set it in.
Well, that's why we like the rundown.
Yeah. But the thing that I notice that I find really interesting about Darla's costuming is we have this this lore in Buffy that vampires tend to stay in the styles that they were, the year they were turned.
Yeah.
But Darla doesn't. Darla is extremely adaptable.
Yeah. Interesting. And then dovetailing that into Lady E's reading earlier on. And her catering her outfit to Angel in Buffy season 1, dressing as a schoolgirl. Interesting and cool.
Yeah, like adaptability is her defining trait, I think.
Yeah.
That and manipulation, which is, that's part of it. She has had companion training.
Well, and the other thing too, I suppose to keep in mind about that bit of Buffy lore is, to me, it implies that there is lag once a vampire is turned. There is lag in upgrading your fashion by about a decade or two. You get the punk vampire from Fool for Love, so forth. But it seems like after 50 years, they become more adaptable as a survival mechanism. I mean, Spike, it's identity things, that bits and pieces. He's building something from scratch. But I think that bit of lore you're talking about in Buffy is, to me, I read it as sort of lag in making the adjustment, especially if you are kind of like the magical narcissist, which is to me a reading of vampire. It's like, my outfit's great already. Why the hell would I want to change it?
But even most of them, when they do adapt, they stick with similar things. Like Drusilla tends to keep the same silhouette, even in more modern dresses.
Interesting.
And similar cuts. She modernizes, but it's always with a sort of a look that's actually reminiscent of what her grandmother would have worn, or the sort of thing that her dolls would have been dressed in. In all likelihood.
I love that depth of detail that, unless you have the education that you have, is just going to go missed, but they put it in and it's cared for regardless.
Well, I think it's just with Drew, the idea of a doll, just kind of, that's always, I think, been in mind when they dress her. But with Darla, there are things that do carry through. Like she was 1609, so she would have been raised in at the end of Queen Victoria's reign, and the beginning of the Jacobean, or not Queen Victoria, the end of Good Queen Bess, the end of the Elizabethan, and the beginning of the Jacobean. So lots
Queen Victoria would be crazy. No, I'm kidding. I have no idea.
Queen Victoria is 1830.
Okay.
This is 1603, I think, is when Queen Elizabeth died. The first one. The Virgin Queen, yes. So the time period they had, there's very elaborate and decorative, which is something that Darla always does in some form or another. She finds a way to be decorative, and she puts a lot of emphasis on her hair, but she does always adapt to what will be most appealing in the moment. Like there's that red dress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find that interesting in her, that she's always showing her adaptability and what would most appeal to the man that she is trying to manipulate in the moment.
Yeah, I love that connection. Yeah, we're, like we said, we're the episode guides post, once we get past the point where I've written to, are going to be interesting, because some of the stuff you guys come up with is so fantastic, and I'm disappointed now that I missed the that connection to her job, which was very specific in the script itself, and to me closes that loop of why the episode itself so specifically relates to the men of the different periods of her life when describing her backstory. But it all, it all comes together here.
And there's just one other thing. I see a certain mirroring between her relationship with Angelus, the way that she manipulated and built Angelus, and the way that Holland is with Lindsay. Without the sexual element, as far as we know.
Yeah.
But the somewhat parental.
Definitely parental.
Yeah.
Well, what's your reading of Lindsay and Angel's relationship? In terms of what is the dynamic? I like.
It reminds me of the dynamic with Spike.
Spike and whom? Spike and Angel?
Angel.
Yeah, which again I would almost say is sort of older brothery, right? Yeah. I mean, in that case, then if that is their connection, is sort of like kindred spirits from different parents, then that repetition of the parental relationship, I think, is really terrific.
Yeah, because I do think we've seen parallels, and I think definitely Angel sees parallels between Lindsay and Liam.
No.
The man he once was.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I do need to move on. Is there anything else you want to throw out about this episode?
No, that's good. That's me.
All right. Mr. Josh, sir.
Good evening.
Hi. I feel like we haven't seen you in a while.
Well, I missed the Fool for Love hangout. I was busy shopping at IKEA, which is, an entire marathon in and of itself, decathlon.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be here tonight for this one.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure I would have had much to add to Fool for Love other than just like, oh my God, it's so great, and I just love it so much.
Well,
but,
that's I just want to highlight. It seems like a useful moment to mention. Sarah C. earlier saying she didn't have anything coherent to say or whatever. And again, looking at the inane babble that from me and thinking you need to be coherent is like we have this is a brilliant group and we have wonderful things to say, but not everyone has something a fascinating insight that they want to share every single episode. And I don't want everyone here to put that pressure on themselves to feel like we're here because we're fans and we like each other and we need other fans, Buffy and Angel fans in our circle, and we don't have that, so we go to the internet to find it. You all are my internet friends, so I'm just saying that to me is the operating principle of this group. It's not let's all, I love the things that everyone has to say, and this group regularly blows my mind. But if you want to, if we're going to spend 10 minutes of your time together just talking about how freaking awesome this is, and do you remember how that dope punch and when that guy got kicked in the face, and doesn't she look amazing in this sequence? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. There is value in that. That's all I'm saying. Like, we're here, the only thing we're here to do is love. Love on the show and share that with each other. So you're a brilliant bunch, but stop it is all I'm saying. Like, there's nothing, just everything's okay. Everything's okay.
I mean, honestly, I appreciate that because there's a little celebrity shine about getting to be like, oh my god, the patch of the nerd.
Well,
thought. And we've been doing it for however many years we've been doing it. But
yeah. Yeah. So no, the reason I started the channel was because I couldn't get any of my idiot friends to watch Buffy in my own life, and so I needed this, to find other like-minded people. And if anything, this group has fulfilled that more so than the episode guides did. You know, the episode guides are a lifelong passion now. But, you know, I'm just saying, you know, we're here to just love on the thing that we love. And then anything else is a bonus, is all I'm saying. So what did you love about Darla?
I loved a lot about Darla, but I have some fascinating insights to share.
Yay!
Just
kidding.
I have a series of sticky notes.
Oh, okay.
Here. First of all, I think that De Hoffren is a much better analogy for it, but I think that, and we'll talk about it when we get to season 7. But I think that this episode really sells the Master as a pimp, and not in a like, you know, classy feathered cap kind of a way, but in a like, you know, greasy street bottom, tearing people down to his level to control them kind of a way.
As a predator.
Yeah. And he pimps out Darla, and then says, "She'll be back." And sure enough, she comes back. And then when Darla dies, and he's like, "She was my favorite,"
Yeah, I saw your Ian doing the Master impression for the rest of the time. Yeah, I think yours is. We can have a competition. I like yours better.
I'm on board. I like yours better. I like you. And then, but I think that this. So I went through this episode and I pulled. It was just 2 threads, and I really just pulled on 2 threads, and I came up with 11 sticky notes.
Okay.
Of notes. But it all boils down to the thesis that, especially at this point in season 2, Darla hates herself. Darla is filled with self-loathing.
My question is, like, is that a part of the journey of the soul restoration, which is a part of it for everyone except Spike until depends on what you think the first is doing to him in the beginning of 7. But
I think that Spike's self-hatred is very much works. Spike's self-hatred goes back in time. He starts with hating himself because of how he hurt Buffy.
Yeah, being a vamp saves him from his self-hatred at first.
Yeah,
as the identity. I don't know. That's interesting.
Because Spike and Buffy are able to reconcile and resolve in season 7. Spike is able to move through that self-hatred of himself, for that particular event, and then he goes event by event by event, basically.
Yeah.
But with at this point with Darla, that's absolutely a product of her re-ensoulment, is her self-hatred and self-loathing. Angel said it in his eponymous episode back in Buffy. You have no idea what it's like to have done the things I've done and to care.
Yeah. Well, your delivery of it, I think, is... I love the drama of your delivery. It's sort of cool guy delivery in season 1, but the way you dramatically gave it, I feel the weight of it a little bit more.
It reframes it, and I think it's a tie to make, because it's the episode where Darla dies for the second time. So even though it's the first time we see her die, it's the second time she's died.
Yeah.
So Darla pops out of the box running on inertia, and initially, and I went back and I rewatched the one scene that she was in Judgment, and initially her motivation seems to just straight up be revenge. Like, he killed me, I can't wait to see that boy again. And it's just revenge. But she tries to take revenge on him in the sinister, power abusive ways that she's been used to doing for 400 years without a soul, and it starts to wear on her. Mm-hmm. It starts to gnaw at her. She doesn't like how it doesn't feel good like it used to. And she spends these 6 episodes tearing herself to pieces, basically. Yeah. Syphilis doesn't help. Syphilis absolutely doesn't help. But she's...
I mean, we can really say syphilis never helps.
Syphilis never helps.
No, you'd think, but no.
No. It's syphilis. I love Nicholson's delivery. Yeah. But no, like she continues to do the evil acts she's most familiar with, but now she gives a damn, and she hates that she gives a damn. She's like, "What? No, stop it."
Yeah.
And it really clicked for me when I started to think about, you're reflected in the people around you. I started to think about who are Darla's reflections at this point. And
yeah. I was thinking about that when I was writing that episode guide. Boy, is Wolfram and Hart not particularly a good one.
No, they're not helpful at all.
Yeah.
They're even less helpful than syphilis.
Wolfram and Hart, less helpful than syphilis.
That's on their ads in hell.
Yeah.
There's three key reflections of Darla at this point in this season. And working backwards from this episode, we start with Bethany. Bethany, I'm looking at my notes here. Bethany feels forced into modes of being based on her circumstances, just like Darla does at this point. Darla is continuing to pursue, the revenge against Angel, but she's also starting to be like, you know what? I really miss being a vampire, and I've got to do this. I've got to do this because, this is who I am. And in Lindsay's office, she may as well be telling Lindsay, "Are you surprised that I'm a great big slut?"
Yeah.
So Bethany is a significant reflection of Darla. Judy is a significant reflection of Darla that Angel has already met at this point in the season as well, because Judy feels a lot of internalized self-loathing for her own essential nature as biracial, and how that nature, that essential part of herself, has created terrible circumstances for her over and over throughout her life, just like Darla at this point.
Can I spoil something from the upcoming episode guide?
Yes.
The song "Ill Wind" that Darla sings to Lorne, "Ill Wind Blow Away," is from a movie called The Cotton Club, directed by, it's from The Cotton Club, the one in the 30s, but it appears in the movie The Cotton Club by Francis Ford Coppola, and is sung by a character who is biracial but can pass as white in the story. Yeah, I
I appreciate you so much. That just made my whole night. That just made my whole night, man. Thank you.
Yeah. That episode is written by David Greenwalt, Tim Minear, and Douglas Petrie. Clearly, that scene was written by Tim.
Yeah. So the third big analog for Darla at this point in the season, we got right there in the first premiere episode, in Judgment, and that was Faith. Faith is the reflection of Darla in that episode, because Faith, at that point, is serving consecutive life sentences in prison. Probably will never be free. Basically, will die. And she's still working to redeem herself.
Yeah.
Which is the point that Darla, and then through Darla, Angel get to in the trial and an epiphany. Right now, Darla is also serving a life sentence, just like Faith was.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's a well, I don't want to spoil anymore. Yeah, but I've been writing all day, and I've been thinking about some connections that are clicking for me from what you're saying.
So it got me wondering. Because I'm with you. Like, I wanted much more Faith than ever we got, but it got me wondering why Faith. And so that was the other thread that I pulled. This is all just one thread, and I'm so sorry. So the other thread that I pulled was tracking Wolfram and Hart's plan, like Wolfram and Hart developing this plan of attack against Angel. And it goes all the way back, of course, to City of, where Angel deposes.
Sorry, I can't hear it. Goes all the way back. It goes all the way back to Eve. It goes all the way back to City of. Sorry, go ahead.
It does. No, it does. Can we talk about when we get there? When we get to Billy, we're going to talk about that soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just like ding, ding, ding in minor keys when he's chasing Fred through the hallway. Anyways,
so that episode's terrifying. Sorry, I keep knocking off course. Go ahead.
No, this, as you said, this is what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
So in City of, Angel makes Russell fly, and that's basically him deposing the local vampire king. Russell was, for all intents and purposes, running the vampire.
Yeah, I run this town.
And he was probably one of Wolfram and Hart's most significant and powerful clients, which means that Angel killing Russell was a direct attack on Wolfram and Hart. And Lindsay, calling them afterwards and being like, "Hey, we got a thing, but this is weird." So then later in I Fall to Pieces, there's a throwaway line that Disintegrating Doctor is a client of Wolfram and Hart.
Okay.
Whom Angel kills.
Yeah.
Again, Wolfram and Hart perceiving a direct attack on themselves. And then in Sense and Sensitivity, Wolfram and Hart foils Little Tony's escape plan. And that's finally when they start, or Angel foils Little Tony's escape plan. That's finally when Wolfram and Hart starts paying attention. Because they got the surveillance camera and they've got evil Bazinga going, "You've been cut loose, Mr. Papazian," and he hangs up on him.
I love that name stuck.
Oh yeah, it's never going away. Parting Gifts is where it turns around. Parting Gifts is where Wolfram and Hart realizes that Angel has a direct connection to the powers that be, and that elevates the threat in their eyes. The Ring is their first attempt to counterattack.
Mm-hmm.
By trying to, because he's a vampire, so why wouldn't he be on our side? He's evil. Oh, he's got a soul. Oh, he does good. Oh, he goes back in and does the right thing. Well, shit. And then in Sanctuary... Oh, go ahead.
One would think, given that somewhere down the line there was a Jasmine waiting, and the Shanshu prophecy existed, and they had books that they could say, "Show me this." You're going to that. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
So in Blind Date, Wolfram and Hart get their hands on the Shanshu.
Yeah.
And
Angel gets his hands on the Shanshu. Oh no, Wolfram and Hart
steals
take
it from
back.
Wolfram and Hart.
Yeah, he steals it from Wolfram and Hart. Yeah.
And Wolfram and Hart's treatment of Angel changes from Blind Date moving forward. From Blind Date previously, they were viewing him as an adversary to fight.
Right.
From Blind Date moving forward, they were viewing him as an asset to cultivate.
Right. The specific wording that the demon has in whatever the last episode is of that season.
Shanshu.
This was the thing that was to bring him down to us.
Yeah.
Which has very specific epiphany connections. But go ahead.
And they do that because of their observations of his behavior in The Ring and in Sanctuary. In The Ring, he's willing to sacrifice his life to do the right thing, and in Sanctuary, he's willing to sacrifice his life for someone, to save someone, and specifically to save someone who had hurt him over and over and over and over. So they resurrect Darla and throw her at him. And it's so it's brilliant because Darla pops out and she's like, revenge. But then eventually Darla, and this goes back to what Lady E was saying earlier, and Sarah a little bit, Darla goes on to start to try to reclaim and regain her power. She sees her emotions and her conscience as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, people are pathetic, Again, Bethany speaking for Darla.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wants her strength back. She wants to be a vampire again. So she says, God doesn't want you, but I do. And this is even before Darla knows she's dying. Darla just wants it all back the way that it was, that she was used to for half a millennium. So, and it all kind of runs right up into this episode where we get to the "you damned me" part. Which that sounded kind of country when I said it just now. You damned me.
Yeah, the text is just showing.
It really. He's like, "Oh man, you daggum old vampires!" And talking about biting people. But it gets right up to that part where Darla finally thinks she's got him. Wolfram and Hart finally thinks they've got him. And Angel, because of the powers that be teaching him a couple of lessons up until this point by sending him after Bethany and all that kind of stuff, is able to reclaim his narrative and say, no, you damned me.
Yeah, that's a beautiful moment, especially when, I mean, it's not much of a subtext, but when the taken from the perspective of the abuse subtext that Untouched makes so explicit, it is a really lovely bit there that I appreciate.
Yeah. So we're not all the way up to the point where the faith reflection is apparent, and that won't become apparent until the trial. And then everything goes to hell in the trial in just an absolutely glorious fashion.
Yeah, it's an amazing episode.
This whole skipping
runs
over
incredible.
Skipping over the Shroud, yeah, it absolutely is.
Well, Shroud's fine. Like, I liked your idea that the Shroud biting Kate was kind of a motivating bit for his descent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what that is us making use of the Shroud. I don't think that was necessarily the Shroud's use. A little bit, because having now watched the trial multiple times in the past week, it's just not there. You know, the effects of it are just not obvious in those scenes. So
yeah,
but it's fine.
Yeah, the Shroud drives me absolutely bananas, and when we do our discussion about it, I'm going to try to hold it off.
Well, I do need to set everyone loose. Was there something else you wanted to?
It's like watching a symphony. Darla is fantastic.
Yeah, it's wonderful. All right, my friends, we're a little over, but I appreciate your time. What are we doing in 2 weeks?
Shadow.
We're starting
May
that.
1st.
We're starting the trilogy.
Oh no.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, so Shadow, Listening to Fear, and then Into the Woods. All right, and Jack, you and I are recording podcasts tomorrow or the next day. We're going to be talking about the Nevers.
Then not tomorrow, then the next day, and it'll be up in the evening Australian time.
Yeah. And script for the next
trial.
The trial is done. I'm going to work on Into the Woods for the next couple of days, and then edit the trial hopefully by Friday, probably by Sunday. Is the way that those things tend to work out. And that's it. I appreciate you guys. Everyone watching in the YouTube stream, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Ian. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Ian.